Hey friends, today I want to talk to you about how to interview when you have no experience. It's tough, right? If you're watching this, you've probably been out on the job hunt for a while looking for something. And if you're an NP looking for a job, oh my gosh, you've probably been ready to pull your hair out. Everything says experience required. Employers can be very selective right now because it's a tight market. So when you do finally land that interview, you need to rock it. You're going up against some stiff competition, particularly if the other competition has experience. So I have some tips for you about how to tackle the interview process as a novice. If we haven't met yet, my name is Bree. I'm a nurse practitioner. I make content for nurses, NPs, and students. Welcome to the channel. So you can get a job with no experience, even if you're going up against someone who does have experience. It's a little more challenging, but you can, because honest to gosh, y'all, interview performance is everything. It's everything, because people hire for personalities. We can teach skills, we can't teach personality. And particularly if you're looking for an NP role, the hiring, retention and turnover time frame for a nurse practitioner is significantly long. So start to finish, it's 3 to 6 months from the time a job is offered till you start. So they don't want to lose you. They want to make sure that you are a good fit and that everybody gets along and works well together. And honestly, when people are hired who have great personalities and not so great clinical skills, that can be worked on. But you just can't change how people act. You really can't. That unless people have some, life-changing experience, they don't change. So your personality should shine during your interview process, and I'm going to tell you how to do it in this video. This talk is going to be all about how you answer those behavioral questions. Those questions that they ask you about, tell me about a time when. These are questions that focus on your prior experience and how you apply prior experience to predict future behavior. Because if you haven't worked yet as a nurse or you haven't worked yet as a nurse practitioner, they don't know how you'll act. So they need to know how you've acted in the past. You need to have 5 stories in place. You need to have 5 career wins and losses. 5 stories that you can use to answer these behavioral questions. And you can kind of spin them to fit any of those related questions. So when you're developing these stories, I really want you to fight the urge to fall back on non-related careers or not even career-related stories. What do I mean by this? Okay. Say the question is, tell me about something you failed at. Well, if you're a nurse going to a nurse interview, I want you to tell me something that's healthcare related, whether you worked as a tech before or within your clinicals or when you were acting as a student. I don't want you to tell me something that you failed at in life. Like, I had too many kids and I couldn't take care of them. Like, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at career strengths and weaknesses. So that's what you need to stick to. And the closer you can get to the profession you're going into, the better. NPs, even if you haven't worked as an NP, really, really stretch your brain and find some interesting stories from your clinical rotations or your school. You can fall back on your bedside experience. You certainly can, but all of your questions should not have responses about, well, when I was a nurse in the ER, this happened. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal. It's really more ideal to hear about how you'll act in the role that you're going to. That's my first tip. Secondly, your responses should really highlight your hunger. The interviewers know that you're hungry and that you're willing to work a little harder. So you don't have to use those words. You don't have to discuss your passions and those kinds of things strongly throughout, but you can demonstrate it throughout the stories that you weave. They want to know what your commitment level is going to be. So here's how you're different than someone else, someone who has experience. Someone who has experience knows they have other options. It's a little bit easier for them to jump ship and go somewhere else. Someone without experience, they have limited choices. So they know that you're going to be more committed and give them more than the person who's worked before and knows what they will and will not put up with. So you're going to want to kind of highlight your commitment level. The single best way that you can talk about yourself and your skills is to identify what your professional strengths and weaknesses are. And my favorite way to do this, if you don't already know them, is to get this book, Strengths Finders Strength Finder. I can't ever say this. Strengths Finder. There's not an S on the end of this. By Tom Rath. This book is very easy to read, consume. It's going to give you access to a test that you can do online. It's a personality test basically. And then you're going to read it. I mean, my gosh, you can read it in a weekend. It's going to help you to understand what the strengths that you've highlighted are and buzzwords to use for them. So this matters because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we think that we know what we're good at, but this helps give you objective terms that are easier to share with others. For example, when I did mine, adaptability and empathy were very strong for me. Well, it just so happens that fits very well into a healthcare role. So I weave those words into my responses when I'm asked those behavioral questions. Tell me about a time you succeeded at something. Well, because I have such a strong personality trait towards empathy, I'm very good at, and then share a story of a time when I went above and beyond for a patient, or I spent more time with a family empathizing with their difficulty in making goals of care decisions, something along those lines. This helps you to kind of keep your story straight and not run around in circles. So once you've identified the overall personality traits, look within this trait and determine what the transferable skills are that you have for that trait. Transferable skills are those that can be used in any job. They can be honed and developed over time, but they are strengths that you excel in that can be taken from one job that's unrelated to another job and applied. Okay, I don't know if I'm saying this exactly right, but these are traits like communication, problem solving, adaptability, being able to work with multiple different types of people. And you could weave that in a story like, say, you had to consult a very difficult person and how you handled that. That would illustrate that. Attention to detail, critical thinking, which is everything in healthcare. And there are a million ways that you could talk about this. If you're an NP, really highlight how you focus on evidence-based medicine and you use this to drive your critical thinking skills. You could rely on a story from when you were in school and you had to use evidence to drive a decision for something you did on a project or something like that. Analytical reasoning is one of these. So this is the ability to drill down, like logical reasoning, to determine how something happened. These are great for people who are going into like QI type of stuff. This is also good, like employers want to know that you're the kind of person who can evolve a program and who can make things better. And you can illustrate this through the qualities of analytical reasoning. All of these things are transferable skills. Just go Google it. Go Google what are common transferable skills. Identify through your book or through your own self-reflection on what you're good at and highlight those things in your interview. And then you want to spend some time practicing this interview. You want to practice your answer to these questions over and over and over again. Do not memorize them, but practice them. Have these stories in place with the accurate self-reflection and assessment of your skills and your ability to talk about those, and practice your response over and over and over again. Say them out loud, say them in front of the mirror, have your friend test you, hit me up for a mock interview. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And this performance that you do during your interview is what can sell you, even with no experience. So you can find a job. Just keep at it, work on your skills, and let me know when you get your dream job.